the whole thing that escalated that was Aylin being pushed to eat lunch with the rest of the group, and she ends up throwing the plate in Tom's face because she's uncomfortable, which
Honestly,
he
he
deserved
deserved
it
it,
because
so
he was pushing her. He pushes people, and you know what? That's
yeah, dude.
Hi everyone, welcome to Lovecast, the BL podcast. I'm your host Alexa, and I have my fellow hosts Pixie and Heather with me today.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello, yay, woo!
I love that we always cheer, even
Automatic
when it's just
cheering.
us. We cheer when guests are on, and we cheer when we're here too.
It's the only appropriate reaction to someone introducing themselves, I feel like. I don't know what else you would do.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just gotta cheer.
It's a party.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sure everyone saw this one coming, but I feel like we couldn't let GMMTV's first GL series finish without sharing all of our thoughts on it. I mean, we've talked about it a lot throughout airing. We interviewed Milk and Love. It was only natural. So this week we're diving into all things 23.5 on the show. Yay, cheering again.
Yay!
Cheer again.
Yay,
That's yeah.
sapphics.
So well
Alright.
timed too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we we're talking about like when are we going to film this? When are we going to release this? And it just so happens to be Pride Month.
Exactly.
So we got to wrap our sapphic.
Well, I guess for Heather, it's technically June 2nd now, but
Yeah.
here it's still June 1st. So talking about 23.5 on in the very beginning of Pride Month, I feel like is very fitting. So it was lucky that it worked out with when we had time to record it that way. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Alrighty, well, we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of our usual things that we go through with our deep dives, but just to start it off with the quick synopsis for those who might not have watched the show yet, who might be using this to decide if they want to give it a chance, which there will be spoilers, so be mindful of that. But in general, the synopsis for 23.5 is Ongsa's house. Wow, off to a great start. Ongsa's high school life will never be the same, and she carelessly tells her cute and cheerful classmate son sweet dreams using the Instagram name Earth. Unfortunately, the masculine name leads Sun to believe that she's talking to a guy, but Ongsa doesn't want to lose the opportunity to talk to her. She chooses to keep it a secret and to go on talking to Sun as Earth. And the series, it's kind of like the basis of their relationship, and the series kind of goes through everything that happens because of that during that situation and the relationship that develops after that. So, yeah, I feel like that's kind of a perfect segue into talking about the general plot of the show, our overall thoughts on the story, the plot, and how it was written. Um, so, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward story. I would say that, like a lot of high school BLs, it's not anything particularly new. But I feel like because this is, I think it might be like the first high school rom-com GL that we've gotten from Thailand that I can think
I
of.
think
Like,
so too.
I mean, first of all, we still only have like a handful of GLs out right now in Thailand, but I don't know that any of them have really been this kind of high school rom-com genre yet, which is funny because I think a lot of BL fans tend to think that's pretty oversaturated market in the BL world.
Yeah.
But because it's the first of its kind in the GL realm, I feel like it's kind of significant for that reason. And I, even though it was like simple and it was pretty straightforward with the relationship progression, I thought it was really like I enjoyed watching it. It was fun to watch. It was sweet to watch, and
Yeah.
I don't
One thing I really loved in general that was basically everyone was gay, and that I appreciate that. Like everyone
Yeah.
can just be gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
I don't know if you Oh, go ahead, Heather.
Oh no, it's okay. You finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if you guys saw, but when the show first started airing, and they first showed the opening credits, a lot of people noticed that like the colors that they were using to like line the characters were like lesbian flag, bi flag, trans flag. I think I don't know if they had the gay flag in there for Maween and Tin, but I think they actually asked P. Fawn or someone on the production staff, and they did say that that was like purposeful to kind of
Mm.
reflect the
Oh,
identities
I
of the
love
characters in the show.
that.
Mm.
So
It's cool.
that's a cool little tidbit that Pixie's thought kind of made me think of.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. To be fair, I kind of like was skipping through the credits
Yeah.
after watching it once
You
because I
watch
was
it
like,
once
don't
and
have
then you're like,
time. I
yep.
gotta watch the show. I gotta get
Yeah.
to the show. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but no, what I was gonna add was I think that this was actually a very clever move by GMMTV
Mm-hmm.
to start their like GL roster with a sweet high school simple GL
Mm-hmm.
with a very popular lead couple
Mm-hmm.
and a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting second couple.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I think it was very like it very very smart on their part because
Mm-hmm.
it kind of like yes, it's a high school GL. It's a sweet plot. Like people could say, "Oh, it's boring," but it's not
Mm-hmm.
boring, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like entry level GL if you kind of want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
put it into a
Get a
little
smooth,
box. It's
smooth
like
start.
it's yeah, it's like entry level GL. It's easy watching, it's fun watching, it's got a lot of
Mm-hmm.
comedy,
Mm.
the romance is there, the chemistry is there, the plot it's not hard at all to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just really get invested in the characters, and we
Yeah.
know that that is a method that works
Mm.
really well in this like industry, is
Mm-hmm.
creating this connection with the characters and the story. So unless you've got a really well written story, you kind of want something simple that the characters and the actors can drive like the story and drive that like interest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it was so, 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 so clever that they've
Yeah.
started with like their kind of jail roster with this type of story and this
Yeah.
type of show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that for me, this show was like I really liked it. I don't think it's boring, but it's a show that I found that I enjoy better sharing with someone.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up when I wasn't reacting myself, I was watching other people's reaction to come through the episodes because there was just something about hearing others' thoughts while you're
Mm-hmm.
watching and just sharing it all with
Mm-hmm.
someone. And that doesn't mean that I thought it was boring. If it was boring, I just wouldn't watch it. It wouldn't matter which reactor I was watching
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
because I can't do that. So it was just like it just really gave me like this whole like okay, I need to share this with people. Like
Yeah.
Mm.
I need us to do this together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think there are shows that are more enjoyable, or I don't know if better is the right word, but
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get a lot more out of it when you're watching it with a group or engaging in like the fandom around it. And I think when you have these shows that are maybe simpler in plot, so you don't necessarily have a lot to think about when you're watching it, being able
Mm-hmm.
to watch it from someone else's perspective and see how their thoughts might have differed from yours and such makes it
Yep.
more enjoyable in that aspect. And it kind of makes me think of My School President, because it was kind of the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
like same high school rom-com, very simple, very much driven by the characters and the chemistry, and being able to engage with the fandom every week and see everyone
Yeah.
reacting and sharing their feelings was a lot of what I think drove my enjoyment of the series. And I think we all talked about that before as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
just like, it kind of makes me think like I feel like GMMPD's kind of in their bag with the high school romances lately. Because they had My School President, we have 23.5, and Only Boo is also in that similar vein, that a lot of people are
Oh,
enjoying it for those same
Yeah.
reasons. And so of course I think there's merit to having really complex plots and stories, and those are
yeah.
obviously enjoyable as well, and you want to see the variety. But I think when simple is done well, and like with what Heather was saying, like driven by good characters and
Mm-hmm.
characters that make you want to root for them, it can be just as enjoyable to watch as something that's like really, really plot and writing heavy. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
100% agree.
So kind of segueing into the writing, I feel like this is, I don't know if a point of contention is the right word, but I know watching episodes 10 through 12, well, I'll say in general, I think GMMTV has, and a lot of BLs, not just GMMTV, but particularly I've seen a lot of GMMTV shows like with Last Twilight happening recently, has gotten a lot of flack for kind of losing the plot in the final
Mm,
episodes of a show. And I think what
mm-hmm.
I saw with this show is that people felt a little bit of frustration with the characterization in episodes 10 and 11 particularly, I guess, like when the
Yeah.
conflict was happening. And so I guess there's like this frustration that comes from like the show being like everything you wanted up until like the final quarter, and then like you feel like something just like flips and like it's
Yeah.
losing the plot. um
Yeah.
and I was actually rewatching episodes 10, 11, and 12 today just to refresh my memory because I wanted to have thoughts on that. um
Mm,
and in general, I feel like I came away with it feeling like I felt like the narrative in the final and the writing in the final three episodes of the show was pretty harsh on Ongsa.
yeah.
Um, because the whole conflict that came about was that Sun felt like Ongsa was overly paranoid and was like making
Mm,
decisions about the relationship based on her own paranoid thoughts and feelings, which she was doing, which is valid.
mm,
But the fact that that stemmed from Ongsa being afraid to come out to her parents, um, I feel like in an ideal world, Ongsa shouldn't have been afraid to come out to her parents, but I feel like the writing kind of like, especially with Ongsa being a queer character, was kind of like
mm-hmm.
stepping over the fact that when you're queer, you do kind of have to be overly paranoid about how people perceive your relationships. And I felt like, yes, Ongsa was a little bit too much in her head about things. She was not very confident in herself, and I think she let that influence how she thought people would view her relationship with Sun. And obviously, she was worried how people would view Sun for being with her. But I think like being a lesbian, as Ongsa was,
Mm,
based on what the director said, there was validity in that as well. And I feel like, you know, it's a simple show. I think they were kind of trying to show like the more positive side of things, but I came out of
yeah.
it feeling like it was harsh on her for having those paranoid feelings. And
Yeah.
I think that was one of the small things that kind of frustrated me about the writing in the final quarter, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I understand that. I do feel like there was sort of a disconnect because I feel like how mm, Angsa and Sun both reacted to the whole situation, kind of out of context of the plot and story, makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
in the already character built, like the plot and their characterization from before, what they've
Mm-hmm.
gone through from before, it didn't really make sense from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the story up until then had treated the fact that they're lesbians as not scary. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone was okay with it. There wasn't like anything dramatic. They were kind of rose coloring
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
whole thing, and then you have like
Going.
the sharp contrast of Ongsa reacting so intensely when they haven't really built up to it properly. Like they've shown some of her anxiety towards
Mm-hmm.
that, but not, I think, like not in a way that warranted such a harsh reaction.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
it's extremely valid, like for her to feel that way.
Right.
I just don't think the storytelling was leading you to that intensity of it.
Yeah. I think there had been like some small indications that Ongsa was,
Yeah.
and I think it was like mainly her mom, based on what they
Mm-hmm.
said, that she had like this fear around. I think partially because she was living in Phuket with her dad, I think, and then came to Bangkok to live with her mom in Alpha. And so maybe it was partially because like they had been apart for that time, and early on Aung San Alpha's mom like had some of these lines that was like, "Oh, Alpha, you're my only hope," kind of like indicating
Mm.
that the way she viewed Sun was maybe, or I don't want to say not in the best light, but Aung San being different than Alpha, I think
Mm.
probably had some influence on their relationship. But I do agree that I guess it wasn't really her relationship specifically with her parents wasn't that big of an element throughout the show. I think they did mainly focus on the school environment and having all
Yeah.
of their friends there be very accepting.
Mm.
So I can see how it could kind of feel like it could come out of left field from that element.
Yep.
The thing that was weird for me was um, Sun kind of, you were saying kind of both of them felt out of character. I kept
Mm.
thinking back to, I think it was episode 7 or 8 when they first started dating, and Sun very pointedly tells Angsa, like, I don't mind if you don't feel comfortable with our relationship being public.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she said, I'm okay with it, but I want you to be comfortable with it too.
Yeah.
But then, like, when it came back to the fight, she kind of framed it more as like, even though I didn't care that I didn't care about it, but you kind of made that
Mm.
decision without me almost, which kind of felt like a flip from what she was saying before, that she didn't mind if Aung San wanted to keep it private. But then like it came back to the conflict, and it felt like she had
Yeah.
more negative feelings about it than I think she made known to Aung San.
Yeah, I think Javi, the reactor, had a really good point here
Mm-hmm.
because he was talking about how, okay, so Sun was going to America and she didn't want to go because of Ongsa, and Ongsa told her, no, you should go,
Mm-hmm.
which made her Sun feel unsecure in their
Mm.
relationship because there wasn't like a good communication on why Aung Sa thought like you should do
Wanted to
this
actually
once in a
be.
Yeah.
lifetime
Oh,
thing
yeah.
And then the
and don't
parent
hold
thing
back for
piggybacked
me.
right on top of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
like it sort of it built up to that point where she was so insecure, but it again, it happened. It was too much of a sharp turn. Like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't build up enough for it. Which I think that's where they lost us, sort of.
Yeah.
It happened all too fast and it was too abrupt.
And I wonder if it comes from like that typical narrative that we get in like BL and GL media, feeling like there needs to be some kind of conflict in that like
Mm.
Mm.
episode 11, episode 10, 11, 12 point. So like I think this one in terms of in the grand scheme of things made more sense than some of the other conflicts that we've seen come out of left field in queer
Yeah, that's
media.
true.
Um but I feel like at this it I can agree that it kind of felt like a little bit extreme compared to everything else that they had built so
Yeah.
far. But I do appreciate how they resolved it, because I feel
Yeah.
like there was an acknowledgement from both
Hmm.
Aung Sa and Sun that they were clearly misunderstanding each other, and that
Yeah.
Aung San recognized that she was not able to clearly communicate her feelings around their
Hmm.
relationship, around wanting Sun to study abroad. And Sun also recognized that she had expectations of Aung San that she hadn't necessarily made clear herself. So I feel like even though watching episode 10 and 11, it felt kind of out of left field maybe for both of them to some extent. Like they came back
Yeah.
in the finale and kind of like acknowledged it as the characters, which I
Hmm.
appreciated from them,
Yeah.
if that makes
Mm.
Yeah.
sense.
I will say like for the finale they kind of saved it in again. Like I was at the end of episode 11, I was just like, what even? I don't know how I feel about this. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there just like, I don't know how I feel about this. But I think they ended it in a really good way that wrapped it up, and it
Yeah.
wrapped all the threads that were loose
Yeah.
together, and I appreciate that. At least
Yeah.
like it could have gotten a lot worse.
I did think it was a pretty
Mm.
solid finale all around.
Mhm.
Mm. I was just gonna say, back on your point, Alexa, about like the structure, I guess, of
Mm-hmm.
BLGLs, and like
Mm-hmm.
the last quarter needing some sort of just something to like
Mm-hmm.
some conflict of some sort. 23, this kind of disappointed me a little bit because it's something that I've been noticing with, and I don't know, it's not across the board, but it's something I've been noticing over the past like 12 to 18, probably even 24 months with BLs,
Mm-hmm.
is this need to, when the families get involved, when the parents get involved, there's this
Yeah.
need to have one set of parents being
Mm.
fully accepting, not
Mm.
questioning
Mm.
anything. We get the love is love speech. And we've got
Mhm.
the other parents that are either there as the catalyst for the character to like not want to come out
Mm-hmm.
or have some sort of conflict because the parents don't agree
Mm-hmm.
with their relationship, or
Mm.
the parents don't care but the relationship between parent and child creates this like
Yeah.
this tension, this anxiety, this
Yeah.
um yeah, anxiety around
Mhm.
the need to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I I don't like, I was actually a little bit disappointed that that happened again in
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
23.5, because to Pixie's point, it didn't feel like it was the natural progression
Mm-hmm.
of Ongsa's
Mhm.
story and connection with her family.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mhm.
yes, we saw this anxiety, this character that has anxiety that was not secure in how she felt about herself, not secure in her relationship with Sun, her relationship with her family, always feeling like her sister was better. Her mum saying that like, yeah, Alpha, you're our only hope, and then like
Mm-hmm.
Alpha, like the whole like Alpha's stress
Yeah.
about being like
Mm-hmm.
the
The
the the
pressure.
the eldest sister, the
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
mature sister, and like yes, there was all that, but like that, the way that I'm trying to get at, the way that it was written about Ongsa's anxiety, telling her family about her relationship with Sun, whilst
Mhm.
Sun is sitting at the table. They are literally there
Yeah.
to have dinner, and Sun is like, let's tell them about our relationship. Let's say stuff about our relationship, even though they
Yeah.
haven't exactly agreed that that's what they're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she
It
outed
felt,
She,
Aileen.
yeah,
Yeah.
she did effectively out them and Alien and Luna. So yeah, but
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like I felt like if yeah, I was like I'm in two minds because I'm like in that scene, if because like yes, they've been joking the whole time with the parents in like earshot about Ong Sa's crush on Sun,
uh huh.
and like they've been talking about all this sort of stuff with the parents in earshot, and then the son felt comfortable enough at that table to say something. So
Mm-hmm.
you would think that that family had created a bit of an environment where Ong
Mm-hmm.
Sa would feel
Mm.
like that she can say something, because like she wasn't even that anxious when her like cousin and Aitlin's their cousin, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, when like her cousin found out, she wasn't that. It was mainly just, oh my god, you know about my crush, not oh my god, you know
Mm-hmm.
about my crush on a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Um, and like same as when Alpha and like literally everyone found out. It was very much, oh my god, you know about my crush, not my crush on a
Mhm.
girl. Like there was a line here or there that was like, and I think it was when Ongsa said it to Sun, like or someone like, I'm a girl. Does that matter?
Yeah.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mhm.
no, not a thing. But like she wasn't freaking out
Mhm.
about the fact that she likes girls when her sister and her cousin and friends found out.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand why it was such a thing for her
The
to
parents.
be having that level of anxiety in
Mm-hmm.
that situation with her family.
Mhm.
I just
Yeah.
felt like, cuz like yeah, I just couldn't make sense of it. And I think that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is like a, I don't know. I find there's like sort of a disconnect to how psychologically she evolves as a character, because she starts out as this person who like literally says like, I can only talk to you, my dog. Like that's the only
Yeah.
social interactions I have, is talking to my dog. And then she like grows and is able to communicate with better with people, and gets friends in her class, and just more social and open and whatnot.
Mm.
But her parents, her mom, is not part of that at all. It's kind of like uh, the parents are stuck in the
Yeah.
past.
And I hate that they used her sexuality as the way that she gets past that with her parents.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
it could
think
have
that
been
I think
literally
that
anything.
yeah, and I think that's probably like my issue, because we did see her kind of come out of her shell, and
Yeah.
it wasn't just around her sexuality. It was
Mm-hmm.
around creating friends and creating
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
interests
she literally had
and
social
opening up
anxiety,
that way.
right?
Yeah. And so then for like if they wanted to show, I guess, her moving through that block with her family, like with
Mm.
her parents, um, and like opening up to them more, I don't know. Maybe I just feel like it's done, and that could
Mm-hmm.
just be like
Yeah,
I loved it. I
it's a
love that
done trope.
it's a
Yeah.
yeah. I think that it's just done. I'm done with that, and
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't connect with it. I couldn't. Yeah, yeah. And like I know that it was
Yeah.
a high school series. I know that like a lot of the shows that are very much based in like the high school setting always have some form of message. I
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
understand why it's like that. I understand why the formula is like that. I just I just wasn't able to connect with that part of it in 23.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were talking, it kind of made me think, Heather, when you were saying how, like, when Ongsa came out, or all of her friends and like Alpha and Aelin found out about her and Sun, or her liking Sun, um, there was never like really a lot of anxiety around it. I think it was interesting because when Ongsa was anxious about other people finding out about the relationship, it was always about how Sun would be perceived for liking a girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that Ongsa had already kind of written herself off as like the loser lesbian. And like for her, it
Mm-hmm.
was like a derogatory thing. Like, well, I'm already a social outcast. I'm already awkward. I don't know how to make friends. So if I like girls and people dislike me for it, whatever. But you know, for Sun it was different because Sun is popular and she's liked, so she was paranoid about how Sun would be perceived in all of these cases. But when it came to her parents, it was herself that she was anxious about. And I think that like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of flip where like she had never
Mm,
really had anxiety around her how people perceived her as queer kind of made it feel like it came
yeah.
out of left field. And I think like it
Mm-hmm.
in general it makes sense for like when it comes to her parents for that paranoia to be around herself and their perception of
Yeah.
her queerness. But
Yeah.
like you were saying, I don't think both of you were saying I don't think the story had really posited her parents as an issue in that way at all up until that
Mm-hmm.
point. Um
Yeah.
it's like you said, they had an environment where seemingly they were welcoming of their friends. Like they were always talking about these things pretty openly within the house, despite like their
Mm-hmm.
parents being around and stuff like that. And Ongsa's issues with her parents or relationship with her parents previously had kind of been tied more to her social anxiety, and her not being able to connect and fit in either in Phuket or Bangkok. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that is tied to her sexuality, but they didn't really like frame it that way when it came to her parents, which maybe that's where like the
Mm.
disconnect kind of comes from,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes
That's a
sense.
really that's a really good point that you made, actually, Alexa, about like Ongsa's coming out around her parents is very much focused on herself, and
Mm-hmm.
all of her other anxieties was very much focused on how Sun would be
Mm-hmm.
viewed.
Mm-hmm.
Because like when you take that into consideration, the switch feels like it could kind of fit, because it's like all of a sudden she is like in that moment around that time feeling like, oh crap, this is me being
Mhm.
perceived. This is how my
Mm.
parents are going to think about me and
Yeah.
my relationship with my parents. And I have to say something and I have to tell them instead of like, oh, it just being found out. Oh, son
Mhm.
is telling this person. Oh, my friends are telling these people. I'm just going along for the ride. It's very
Mhm.
much a I am in the here and now I need to say something.
Mhm.
That could be that would be very confronting for someone
Yeah.
with like Ongsa with the anxiety that she's got around her sense of self and how she is perceived by the world and how she's perceived by her family and all that sort of stuff. So, kind of if you take that into consideration, I can see how it could have like
Yeah,
panned
I
out
get.
that way,
Yeah, I
but
get that.
uh, yeah,
Execution was a
but I
little.
still feel personally, I'm like, "Ugh, it still didn't just
I mean,
feel as right."
in the sense
Mhm.
of storytelling, you're supposed to tell a cohesive story from beginning to end, and not start sort of like have this place at the end where suddenly a whole new issue arises. Like, at least because there's not really any foreshadowing for that to happen. Like, we don't get any interactions with her parents early on that show that she has this
Yeah.
anxiety
Yeah.
towards
Yeah.
telling them things. Like, if they showed at least interactions with where um she's very, like, she has a lot of anxiety around talking to her parents, then it would, like, at least you've built up to it.
Yeah.
um but yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of like falling alongside my point of like they were just in this house talking all the time, open about
Mhm.
everything,
Yeah.
and then that scene and
Yeah.
that anxiety around that talking to the
Disconnect.
parents
Yeah.
just didn't feel right. Like
Mhm.
I can see where it could work in when taking into consideration what Alexa was saying about the
Mm-hmm.
way Ongsa
Absolutely.
perceives her relationship with Sun and her sense of self and all that. But I do also still feel like it just didn't
Mm.
fit right
Mhm.
in the
Didn't fit the
story in
narrative.
that moment, the
Yeah.
way that it was built up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I was just gonna say, like, I feel like the parents almost weren't enough of an element in the overall story
Mm-hmm.
for them to have been such a big catalyst in the final
Yeah.
conflict of the show.
Yeah.
And although I feel like some of the issues that were addressed within that conflict, like when Aung San Sun were actively fighting, were valid issues that
Yeah.
could have been brought up to be addressed, and they were addressed. I feel like the thing that was the catalyst for that just didn't make sense in the narrative and
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Absolutely.
didn't fit in with the rest of, like you guys were saying, the rest of what
Yeah.
the show had
Can
been
I
saying.
also say that those like valid feelings that they had to get through and discuss through, communicate through their relationship, they should have honestly brought them up earlier. Doing
Yeah.
this in episode 11, it's like we say this over and over again because it's not a good story arc to go like uphill until 11, then down, and then right up again. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's that's not a roller coaster. Like, you, need some more, like, up and down. And I they had plenty of opportunity to kind of gradually introduce all these things and resolve them in a way that didn't become, like, rushed, because it did feel rushed. The
Mm.
conflict that happened felt rushed. Their way of resolving it felt rushed. It was all, like, kind of choppy, like it's chopped up to fit
Yeah.
a lot into very little. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I'm getting so like yes, stories need ebb and flow. Yes, they need to be working up to something, whether it's a conflict or just something that is like the high point and then that needs like resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's part of story structure, whatever. But I don't think we need to keep doing the 12 episodes where the penultimate episode is all of our conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last episode is resolution of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm getting sick of that. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that flows. Like, I feel like every single show that does that, where it's like, there's not really that much conflict, there's not really that much anything, like,
Mm.
ebb and flowy up until like 11, and then
Yep.
everything happens in 12.
Yep.
The shows that do that always feel like that last episode, or the last couple of, like, 2 episodes even, always feel just misplaced. Like, there should be
Yeah.
a couple more episodes to work it out, that there should be a couple
Mm-hmm.
more episodes to help you, like, have that satisfaction that
Mm-hmm.
usually comes after,
Yeah.
like, that big conflict. Like,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think with a story like this, like Innocence, and like what you see with this, and My School President, and Only Boo, like you don't really need a heavy conflict for it to work. Like it doesn't, like it feels like um you kind of throw something heavy on the end because you're missing something, but you're not. We're not feeling like we're missing something because this is just like one genre, like one part of storytelling, and it
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
doesn't need the big thing,
Like,
right?
maybe the conflict could have just been that, like, Ongsa's feelings around Sun
Mm-hmm.
going to America,
Yeah,
and they're just all within their relationship, and
I
how they
mean,
feel about their place in their relationship. Like, that would have
yeah,
been enough.
yeah.
Adding
Sun had
in,
enough anxiety about Ongsa telling her to go to America for them to kind of make that into like, okay, Sun is withdrawing because she thinks that Ongsa doesn't really like her because she's telling her to leave, and like having that as like a the smaller, more appropriate conflict for where the story was going, instead of
mm,
throwing like a big like a big bomb in your face
yeah,
with reactions that felt out of context
yeah.
for
I think
the story.
maybe also, maybe because the parents, like, it was a non-issue as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the end, it was,
So
yeah.
I feel like that didn't, I don't know. Like, I know it's all it was, I know, like, I get why they had it. They wanted to show, like, formula, but also they wanted to show how Ongsa felt,
Yeah.
and they wanted to show how in her head she is, how anxious and
Mm-hmm.
she is, how low her, I guess, like, self-worth, her feelings about herself and her relationship with Sun. They wanted to show all of that
Yeah.
with, like, this scene with the parents, but
At the
I
same
think
time,
because it was such a non-issue,
yeah, and I
it
think like
felt
they achieved showing that
anticlimactic.
earlier. They've already achieved showing her anxiety and
Mm,
with the world and having her work through that. So they just like ended up putting another anxiety on her that didn't really need to be there because she's already resolved like her initial, like she didn't have to have the anxiety for her parents to know. Um when she's like already gone through this whole thing with friends and people around her, like it could have been enough, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say, like, I don't know how I'm trying to word this because I want to say is like, I feel like the issue here was with the narrative structure, not necessarily the
mm,
characters, because I feel
mm,
yeah,
like for Aung San and Sun being two 15-year-olds in their first queer
mm,
relationship, their
valid.
mm-hmm.
reactions to the things that happened made sense, and
Very
them not
valid.
being able to
Yeah.
No,
communicate
that's
with each
so fair.
other, and um having these like things that feel obvious to us watching, but like they don't know how to express it, like is valid. But I do agree that I think like the narrative structure like lends to it feeling a lot more out of place than it did, like when they were
Yeah.
actually arguing with each other, and like
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Sun
100%.
was trying to
Things that
express
were
that
said,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like the things they were saying, I was like, this makes so much sense, like they're 15, this
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
is their first real
Yeah.
relationship, and it's queer, and neither of them know how to
Yeah.
navigate that. but the catalyst that led to them being there was like
Yes.
the narrative structure of it all was like, so like I don't think that Aung San Sun are bad characters in that sense, and
No,
like
not at all.
I don't think that's what any of us are trying to say, but I feel
Yeah.
like I felt like I just wanted to clarify that because I was like, we're being pretty
Yeah.
heavy
Yeah.
on the narrative structure right now, but this doesn't have to do
Fair.
with Aung
Yep.
San Sun.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I
And
think that, yeah, I was just gonna say I agree that I think narratively is what threw me off, and I think that's what you guys are saying as well, is that like
Yeah, and
it
the
wasn't
reason
necessary
why
to have
the
that
end,
particular narrative to
yeah,
bring these
Yeah.
feelings out.
yeah,
Yes.
and that's why the end worked, because they're
Mhm.
still good characters. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with the characters, just a storytelling.
Mhm.
So the ending kind of saved it all.
Yeah.
But
No.
yeah,
Yeah, they had some really good conversations. Like even when they were actively breaking up, I was like, they're communicating like they're kind of missing each other's points, but
Yeah.
the feelings that they're tapping into as like 15-year-olds, I was like,
valid.
me at 15, I could have never articulated that. But I also think like they
God, no.
weren't great at articulating that, and it made sense for the characters. But I really appreciated like go ahead, Pixie.
I just wanted to say, like, Aung San's reaction to seeing her girlfriend naked was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Why are you screaming like that?
And then Alpha running in with
Jumping
the knife.
straight to that was funny. That was so funny.
But it's so funny. No, like valid though. Like if you're 15 and you've never seen a girl naked before and you're gay, like I would be like, please do not look. Like the gay panic was so real from Aung San in that
God.
moment.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, I don't know how to wrap that up, but I will say in general, I feel like despite things kind of, I don't know what the phrase I'm looking for is, they dropped the plot a little bit, I think, in the final quarter, but overall I appreciated the writing in the show more than I've appreciated it in a lot of stuff that I've watched lately. I'm still bitter about Last Twilight. I don't want to talk about it. And I think the big thing here is, like Pixie was saying, I think the finale really came back around and kind of put things into place in a better way than a lot of shows have done recently. And so like even though I didn't love how things unfolded in 10 and 11 mainly, I thought the finale kind of still tied things together in a way that I could appreciate the overall like story trajectory.
Yeah, I really do love that they sent Sun
I
away.
love
Like
that.
I was sitting there watching this when they were having the discussion if she was gonna do it or not, and I'm just like, you better go. Like,
Yeah.
you're young. There's gonna be resentment in the relationship if you end up not going, because you're gonna be thinking, what if? What if? And it's a once in a lifetime thing. So just go. And I love that they actually did that and didn't make it like this huge, like, romantic thing that she stayed behind because her love was so strong at 15.
I also love that they did the
at
vice
15, that's the point.
Yeah. I love that they did the vice versa as well, that Ongsa was very sure in the fact that she knew she did not want to go to America to study, and like from the get-go when Sun first brought it up, she knew it was not something that she wanted to do. And for Ongsa being a character who typically like seemed like she would be willing to do anything to make Sun happy, I appreciated that she was steadfast in knowing like
the boundary.
I don't want to do this. I just reunited with my family. This is for you,
so
not
valid.
for me. So like I appreciate that neither of them kind of like conceded to the other in that aspect. Yeah.
Agreed.
Wow.
Agreed. We've spoken a lot about
a lot
Insa
of
and
thoughts.
Sun.
Yeah.
Do we want to jump over to our other
Aelin
favorite
and Luna
characters?
They were
Fan favorites.
100%.
I mean, like
it's the second couple syndrome comes through again.
Yeah, I
Legit.
just think Aelin as a character is very unique and not something you would see in a romance. Like, it's typically like older romances, any kind, BL or straight people, um, you don't see that type of
Just
character.
the way you said that. Yeah.
Like, you don't see that type of character get love, okay? They're just
Yeah.
like, if they're in a romance, they're just there to be funny. It's
Comedic relief.
Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah.
I love that she she wasn't she wasn't there just like to get a laugh, and
Mm-hmm.
she, it was actually, considering she was walking around with like funny hats and the gear and everything, she was taken very seriously. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there was bullying, yes, but it wasn't, people weren't using her as comedic relief.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciated that. Like, I can't like completely explain the feeling that I got, but
Mm-hmm.
like, there is a seriousness to her character
Yeah. Yeah. I
that,
think
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, just her being like you said, like not made into the comedic relief. Yes, people got some laughs out of the things that she did, and her some of her alien antics were funny and stuff like that. Um and I think though they didn't say it in so many words, I think the viewers generally accepted Aelin as an autistic character, and I think,
Mm-hmm.
the comparison of like Alien, that being like the thing she considered herself as not human, as being someone very separate from the rest of the population, is a thing that a lot of autistic people resonate. And so I think it was very special to have a character that reads as very neurodivergent, even though they didn't specifically say that she
Specify.
was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
be treated as an actual character, which is still
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very rare. She had a character arc that was taken seriously. She was respected by her family, by the friends she made. Like you said, there was the bullying arc, but the people that were actually in her life and wanted to be in her life, like,
Mm-hmm.
respected her because of the things that she liked, not despite them, which, is,
Yeah.
you're weird, but I still like you. Like, it wasn't like that with them. Like, they
Mm.
embraced her
Mm-hmm.
for being Aelin, the alien, if that's what she wants to call herself. Um,
Yeah.
and I think I really appreciated her kind of having her moment in, was it episode 11 or was it 10? I can't remember which one it is, where, they were all kind of trying to understand why Aelin was kind of
Yeah.
pulling back. And
Mm-hmm.
the whole takeaway from that was like, you can't push her. Like, you need to let
Mm-hmm.
her, you need to give her time, let her figure things out on her own.
Space. Mm-hmm.
And basically just create a safe space for her to feel like she can tell you if she's ready, not that she has to. Like, that was part of it too. Like, if she never wants to explain why to, she doesn't have to. But then she did
Mm-hmm.
have that breakthrough moment, and it just felt very real and gratifying for the character, I think.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that about her. And seeing her in a romance and having that cute, just like her discovering her feelings and being like,
Mm-hmm.
is this what love is like? Like, it was just so adorable
Mm-hmm.
to watch
What
her kind of
his
go on
It
that
was
journey.
so
I
adorable.
loved
Yeah.
it.
I really appreciate how the characters all realize that, all her friends and stuff realize that they don't really know her. Like, they were searching for her and all of that, like, and no one knows why she reacted that way or what she did, and it's like everyone was just like, oh, we don't really know her
Mm-hmm.
as well as we should.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
it just kind of sparked everyone to like notice her more for who she is, and not an oddity.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think there was a moment in there when Alien and Luna first started, like, I don't know if they were technically dating, because Alien seemed kind of put off by that term, but Luna was having this moment where she was like, I want Aelin to socialize more. And like the whole thing that escalated that was Aelin being pushed to eat lunch with the rest of the group, and she ends up throwing the plate in Tom's face because she's uncomfortable, which
Honestly,
he deserved it
deserved
because
so.
he was pushing her. He pushes people, and you know what? That's
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
But I think, Luna was kind of like, having a bit of a disconnect. I think, of course, she very clearly did not want to change Aelin overall, and she was trying to. She was doing it from a place of good intention, which I think is something a lot of
Mm.
people say when they're pushing someone past their boundaries, which,
Yeah.
is not great. But I think Luna had a very good arc of realizing like her place almost in the relationship with Aelin is that like you don't need to be the one to show her how to socialize or push this boundary for her. Like you just need to create a space for her to come there on her own if she wants to. Um
Yeah.
and so I appreciated that like that was kind of the conclusion, I guess, of like their
Mm-hmm.
not their relationship arc, but of that aspect of like Luna wanting Aelin to be more social, but realizing like that's not something that Aelin necessarily needs and definitely
Yeah.
doesn't need Luna to do for her.
Yeah, and I think also that Luna realizing that okay, Aileen's socializing might not be the same way she
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
socializes. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. The Morse code confession, the fucking cutest thing. And that's an example of
stop.
Aelin not socializing the same way that, she couldn't say it in words, but she could write it out. And it was probably like 10,000 times cuter than someone confessing in words would be. Like, it was just so well done. And I just
Mm.
loved their relationship
The
trajectory.
whole fingers and ET theme of it all,
Luna's not a
A
human because
plus.
she's also the moon. Like,
A
it's just so
plus.
Yeah,
cute.
that was cute.
Oh, they
I
were just
love
so
that.
good. I really loved them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were really, really great second couple, and I thought that like the screen time, the way
Balance.
they're the balance, yes, thank you, that's the term I was
Yeah.
looking for. Like, of course, you knew they were the second couple, so they weren't getting the
Mm-hmm.
same level of screen time that Ongsa and Sun were getting, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the way their relationship was written was balanced well for the amount of screen time that they had, if that makes
Yep.
sense. We're like,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I would always love to see more, but I didn't feel like they were underutilized in the way that
Mm-hmm.
some secondary couples are. So I really
Yep.
appreciated that they had a good balance on the relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciated that there was still like mentions of them even though they weren't there. Like Sun mentioning that oh, Eileen is at Luna's place because they're dating or whatever. Like they're still part of the story even though they're not in the frame, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So yeah.
They don't exist only when they're on screen, and I think that was
Yeah.
pretty true of most of the characters in
Mhm.
the show.
I was gonna say
Which,
they did that really well in this show.
Mhm.
Actually, it didn't feel like you were just forgotten if you weren't on screen. Like everything. That was something that they did really well, I think.
Yeah.
Wait, did I say that? I feel like I just repeated myself exactly, like literally word for word. Um, I think that was something that I was surprised that I didn't notice that people were missing until I started thinking about it and looking at it and realizing how they'd kept like everyone interwoven. And then I was
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
smart. Why is this not a thing that's in everything? Why is this not like
yeah.
I don't understand.
Say, I feel like they
Yeah.
integrated everyone together, like all the separate little like Mawin and or Tin and Chorun
Oh,
with Sun and Mawin and Tin and like the
Mhm.
student council group and even Sun's
yeah.
friends to an extent, kind of like everyone kind of like integrated together. And I like that you would see like different people having different moments together in different scenes, and like there would always be like a
Yeah.
different group of
And
people
it
showing up, and it just worked. Like it
made
made sense. Yeah.
sense. Like in a school setting, like and the thing is what's like, yeah, people talk to each other for different reasons,
All
for
their
different
lives
things.
are
They
connected
connect in different
somehow.
ways. And you were seeing that. Whereas like in some earlier BLs or whatever, it's very much that is that group. And
Yeah.
that group doesn't talk to this group.
The segregated
There is
friend
no
group
way they
is
would talk to
like,
that group
yeah.
until
Yeah.
like, and it's like,
Yeah.
yes, there are people
was
have
very
separate friend
smooth.
groups, but people talk all the time for different things.
Especially in,
I
like you're
just-
saying, in school.
Yes.
I just like when you mentioned student council, I remembered another point that really annoyed me that has nothing to do with what we were just talking about, but I'm going to mention it now because I'm going to forget it, or if not. Dude, I was so annoyed that the student council group was just like, oh, we need to help Aileen because we're the student council. I'm just
It was
like,
really
no,
random.
you're her friends.
Yeah.
You will help her because you're her friends, not because of your duty as the student council. That annoyed the hell out of me.
Yeah, it was a really random way to phrase that. Like, interesting. That's
really
not part
funny.
of your student council duties. Those are friend duties.
That's there.
Yeah.
Does anyone? This is also not off topic, but like know what we're talking about. Does anyone remember when Gemini and Fourth were originally meant to be the second couple? Do you
Yeah.
remember if they were meant to have the same story as Luna and Ailyn, or if that was completely different?
I vaguely remember from the pilot trailer the the whole thing of like them crumpling up the paper and throwing it at each other that Aileen and Luna did to like they would write on the paper. I vaguely remember seeing that with Gemini and Fourth's characters in the pilot trailer, but I don't think they're like I think that might have been one or two, like one or two of the only scenes they had in the pilot trailer. So I
Yeah.
don't know if they ever really flesh out what
They
their relationship
they
would
might
be
not have had like a plot for the second couple when they
at
put
that
out that
point.
trailer at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Okay, yeah,
remember
because
the
I was gonna
crumpled
say like
paper
I
throwing
don't.
thing, which transferred over to
Yeah.
Aelin and
Yeah,
Luna. I do remember that very
Mhm.
yeah,
specifically from the pilot trailer with Gemini and Force characters. Night and
yeah,
something was the other one's name was gonna be. I can't remember, but Night and North,
yeah. Because oh,
I think
interesting. You'd
were
think
their
like night
names.
and day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
was
would
thinking
think.
night and day too.
No, I think it was North. I don't remember though. I could be lying, but
Yeah,
that's I
because
remember that. But
I don't think that they would have done the Alien and Luna type of story
hmm
justice as the way
Yeah.
that oh my god, I've
View in
completely
June.
forgotten the thank you
hmm
that View and June did, the way that they
No,
acted it, the way that they brought those characters to life. If that was transferred like to Gemini and Fourth, it would not have felt the same.
no,
I love
having.
Gemini and Fourth. They are literally like my new favorites. I'm
hmm
obsessed.
Mm,
But View and June,
they couldn't do that.
No,
Yeah.
it was the right move. Like
100%.
they
Yeah.
did the story justice. It was the right move to have a sapphic show with two sapphic main characters,
Yes.
and like of course Mawin and Twin had like their kind of undertones. Which, listen, as a
It's really
fat queer
Listen.
cute.
person, it was
Listen.
very important to
Mhm.
me to see Mawin. So like I would love to see Euro actually get like a
Dude,
queer, like a
Yeah.
I
side couple or
forgot that
something.
Euro's name is Euro. I keep calling him Otto, but that was his name in Dangerous Romance. And
Oh.
I'm just like, sorry.
It's like, where did
sorry.
you get that?
It's Euro. I don't know. Otto is stuck in
I
my head. But
I'm
yeah,
obsessed with Euro.
I
He's
need Euro
so
to be the
good.
main.
Cutest.
And I
He's so
honestly,
good.
Euro and AJ, I can
I
see
was
it. Like
I was shipping a little bit, not gonna lie. Even though I love Ford, I
the
was
height
like,
difference and just like
come on.
they were pretty
AJ.
cozy walking around trying to find ghosts.
And like I do love the friendship element. So I do have to say I did love the friendship. I did
Mhm.
love the like supporting like
Bros helping each other.
supporting yeah, exactly. I was the scene, it's such a little scene, but the scene that I always think of when I think of them is them just sitting on the stairs,
Yeah.
basically like being like I'm so unsuccessful with my crush. I'm so unsuccessful with my crush.
Like,
What
you
are
could
we
just
going to
date
do?
each other.
Let's figure it out. I'm like, just kiss. No, but like I was like, I loved that friendship.
Yeah.
But I also like the other part of me that was like, I ship it. I ship
Yeah.
it. Just turn to
No.
each other, realize you love each other, and no. But no, I think that the friendships were done really well in this
Mhm.
series as well.
Yeah. 100%.
Not just like the romantic relationships, but all of the friendship relationships and the supporting of each other. I thought was done really well.
Mhm.
Alexa,
I was gonna say, and I forgot to put this on my notes, but it was in my head to mention the friendship between Sun and Aelin ended up being one of my most
Cute.
favorite things in the show. Like the way that Sun just like so inherently understood Aelin, and like I really loved in the episode when Aelin was kind of like pulling away and they were kind of trying to figure out what's going on with her when Sun like walked up and saw her on the roof on the field, and like she asked like, am I like intruding in your boundaries? And like she literally just sat with her and like talked to her about something that was kind of relevant to what Aelin needed, but also like to herself. And their little friendship was just, I don't know, it was so special to me and it was so cute. And I love that
Mhm.
Sun just like knew what Aelin needed, understood her, and was like respectful towards her. And they just had the cutest little friendship. It was such an unexpected little surprise that I enjoyed in terms of the friendships throughout
Mhm.
the show.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Agree. I don't know why that made me think of this because it wasn't a friendship, but the teachers.
Mhm.
Nita and Bam Bam, the crumbs.
Oh, literally crumbs, but I will
I
take
loved
them.
it.
I will. Delicious.
I
Listen,
Delicious. I need
mean,
more.
trans sapphics, give us more. Give
Oh,
Gaji and Gulp
yeah.
their own series. Like, I just need every little
Yes.
couple from the show to get their own
Shoot.
series
Yes.
offshoot. The 23.5 cinematic universe.
Yes, please.
and I mean like the tarot cards
Oh my god.
and
The whole
so
little
good.
like tarot card confession, and then she gave her the flowers, but she was so dense and she still didn't get it. I
I
just loved it.
freaking loved how dense. I know it was like such. It was a little bit. It was a little bit caricature. A little bit. I was very
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
much like, eh, but I did enjoy just how dense. I love an oblivious
Yeah, to
like
some
Mhm.
like they're oblivious to
person
the
in
feelings
in a
for you.
relationship
Yeah,
sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it was so
I love that. It was so cute.
it was so cute when she got the flowers and she was like, "Oh, I'm blushing." Like I just loved it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it was just so cute, and
Little sneaky
yeah,
glances as well. That I loved that.
yeah.
Also, I really love teacher Nita's fashion sense. I like
Oh, they were both
peak.
like dressed to the nines. They always had their heels on, ready to go. They
Mhm.
were literally the only two teachers in that school, it felt like, but they were putting in the
Did we
work.
see any other teachers?
No, I
I
don't
swear
think
we
so.
saw them.
Don't think so.
Except for
They're running the school.
the very final like montage when they were in like grade 11. There was one different teacher who like didn't actually have any lines, but they were literally like the only staff at that school,
That's
and
so
they were
funny.
keeping those students together. They were offering the advice, they were doing it all, and I loved it. But yeah, I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
I kind of had that as a point, like the representation throughout the show in terms of showing so many different types of people get to experience romantic love that we haven't traditionally seen in queer media. A fat queer
Yeah.
person, two trans people in a relationship with each other, a Lynn as someone who's neurodivergent getting her own full flesh romance. Like, even though not all of them were big aspects of the story, I just feel like getting to see people who are generally underrepresented in na- romance narratives in general, but especially queer romance narratives, kind of get their little
Mm.
moments throughout the show. Just like, I don't know, you could tell that there were queer people involved in the production, which like I know P.
Yeah.
Fran is the director, is like a very famous sapphic director in Thailand, and it just felt like it was really nice to see, you know, just like to
Mhm.
Yeah.
see different people represented in romance in a show in different levels of representation.
This was announced during the Diversely Yours showcase, wasn't it? This
I think so.
series.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all of the series
2022.
that have come out of that, we've all said we've loved the representation. I think
This
that
is true.
GMM, when they decided to do the Diversely Yours showcase and like submit, that's not the word, showcased the
Mm-hmm.
the series that were a part of that, they really stuck to that like diverse theme, and
Mm-hmm.
it's paying
Yeah.
off.
Mhm.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of different, not only types of shows, but types of relationships within those shows.
Yes.
Because Last Twilight was also from that showcase.
Yeah.
I
Only
can't remember
Friends.
what else. Only Friends was from that showcase, yes.
Yeah.
23.5 was in that showcase. So yeah, like I guess like, you know, it's funny because we titled that episode like was GMMTV 2022, I guess, or 2023, truly diversely yours, and like it was a
Yeah.
clickbaity title, of course, but
Yeah.
like I mean, we're seeing like obviously executed to different levels of like
Yeah.
Yeah.
storytelling,
It's,
but the representation is there in different forms throughout these
Mhm.
shows, and I think that is something to speak for GMMTV diversifying its storytelling roster, and also just like
Yep.
the genre of BL, GL, queer love, however you want to call it in general, kind of diversifying
yeah.
more. And I
I
think if
mean,
we,
going back 3 years,
hmm
GMMTV would never made these kind of shows.
yeah, absolutely
So
not.
They were just stuck to their
we've come
formula
a
that worked.
far way.
Yeah. And I hope like moving forward we see shows where someone like Euro, who is a fat actor, or trans characters like Gaji, trans actors like Gaji and Golf are like stepping into more of the main roles would be
Yeah.
even cooler to
Yeah.
see. But for now, I will take the small bits where we can get them, because it's a lot more than
Yeah.
other shows have given us. So I
Yeah.
think that's
And they're
something
not
that
just
tokens,
comedy. They're
yeah,
not just pure
tokens,
comedy.
yeah,
They're not just tokens. They actually have a story and a character that is more than turn up, make a joke, disappear
leave again, yeah.
forever. Like
Leave
just
forever.
disappear forever.
That's your one line
Leave
in the
forever.
show.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I really liked it. It was really well done.
Yeah.
Trying to think of
Soundtrack. We haven't spoken about the music.
Oh,
I thought I'd quickly
yes.
touch on that.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Of course. Okay, so there was two main soundtracks from the show. Obviously, the first one was Tilt by Milk and Love, which is always stuck in my head. Like it is such a cute little song. And then the other one was Counting Stars by Sarah Solola. I hope I'm saying that right. Who is also another popular sapphic musician in Thailand. And I know like a lot of people were really excited when she was announced as doing a OST for the show. Um, but yeah, I mean, I love them both. I love Tilt. It's like always on my on repeat on Spotify, because I've just listened to it so many times. Learned the dance from Milk and Love. Couldn't
Yep.
couldn't remember any of it now,
Yeah.
but do this is part of it. Something like
Yeah.
this, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
Or something like that. I don't remember.
I'm not a dance challenge person, but I mean, I love that, you know, sapphic was ingrained throughout every aspect of the show. It feels like, from
Yeah.
the characters to the production staff to even the artist doing the soundtrack. It's just really cool to see how much queerness was involved in different elements of the show. So that's always fun to see. And like in terms of general production, which I guess is the other thing we haven't really touched on yet, I really like the editing of the show. I will say the color grading of like these like rom-com high school, like the really light fluffy romance shows, the color grading on them, I'm like, why is everything so bright? Like my eyes hurt physically.
Let's just take it out a bit.
My eyes
A little bit of
physically
trust in it.
hurt looking at this screen, but I thought the show was pretty, like, editing wise was pretty good. Production wise, I did notice like the typical sound stuff, like the muffled mics, which is like nothing new, and I don't know if that's ever something that is not going to be a part of these shows, and it's just part of them at this point. But in general, I mean, I think it was production value was pretty solid. Like they put a lot into the show. I really like the sets. I thought Angsat and Alpha's house, like the house with the split levels and stuff, was such a cool set. I really liked their house. I thought the school set was really nice. It was a really cool school, which I guess is probably an actual school in Thailand somewhere. But yeah, production wise, I don't have a lot to say negative about it.
Yep.
I don't know.
No,
Neither.
me neither.
I enjoyed the costumes. I enjoyed the
Yeah.
set design. I enjoyed the editing. Like, nothing felt too choppy. Nothing felt like it dragged.
Yeah.
Sound was just, I honestly would just say it's kind of like normal
It's the norm.
GMMTV
Yeah.
sound.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't, yeah,
solid
I'm like,
production.
I liked it. I didn't really have anything bad to say there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like in terms of like wrapping it up with how do you feel about this as GMMTV's first GL? And I know Heather, you were kind of saying at the beginning that you thought it was a very like smart move for them to kind of
Mhm.
start with 23.5, start with Milk Love, who
Mm-hmm.
are very popular and have been well liked from since Bad Buddy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but just in general, I just feel like it was a really enjoyable watching experience. Like, um,
Mhm.
and yes, I feel like I'm very partial to it because like, you know, you're craving the GL, so like anytime you get a new one to watch, you're like, oh, I'm eating this up, like it's delicious. But like even when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to things like Gap, which is, you know, one that I've the other big one that I think people have probably watched at this point. You know, I
Mhm.
can still think back and think of a lot of things that like thinking back on it, I didn't necessarily love about the way the story was done and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I mean, and obviously it just finished, but like thinking back on 23.5, and I think this has to do with like what Heather was saying, like it was a very smart show for them to start off their GMMTV, their for GMMTV to start off their GL production with, because like I don't know, I just think of it really fondly, and despite having some issues with the narrative structure in the final quarter, like I still come out of it with a very overall positive feeling about the show and the characters. So I think in that regard, I'm very happy with how it all came together.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
I already said my piece. I like
Yeah. I don't
beginning
think I
of the
have
whole thing.
I don't think I have anything more to say. Like, yeah, like I said in the beginning, I really think that this for me was a show that I really enjoyed watching with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like for all the reasons we've talked about, I just think like in general it was really well done,
Mm-hmm.
and I am excited about the future of GL in GMMTV because
Yeah.
I think they're going in the right direction.
I like that they're starting off with a lot of diversity out the gate because you have
Mm.
23.5, which checks off the cute high school romance. We have
Mm-hmm.
Pluto coming, which is going to be seeming a bit more on like the angsty, almost kind of soapy side of things based on the pilot
Yeah.
trailer. And then there was
Gimme, gimme,
Us, which is
gimme.
giving us kind of like the artsy, kind of emotional, sapphic
Yeah,
romance vibes. So that's one's also going to
Yeah.
be, I think P. Fawn is actually directing all of them. Is she
I'm pretty
directing
sure.
Pluto?
Nice.
I think she is.
Let me double
I'm
check
gonna
because it's
Google.
going to bother me if I don't look at it. I know she's directing Us because I was just looking at her profile earlier, but I can't remember if I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have screenwriter, creator, and producers. I can't see a director.
So maybe it's not confirmed yet.
Let me triple check.
Yeah, they have her. They have her list on my drama list, which you know take with a grain of salt. They have her listed for Us, but she's not listed for Pluto. Pfon.
Yeah, that's what I was checking.
Um, so Pluto might, but I mean they've started. Who knows? Let me see. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they haven't finalized the director yet for Pluto that I can see. Um,
Hmm.
It'll be
but
interesting because she's doing a couple of others alongside us.
yeah, she's done. She has a couple of their
So
hetero shows
see if she's
coming
got
up
the
too.
time.
Yeah, yeah. But bringing it back, I think that they
Mm.
have got a lot of diversity from their GO coming right out the gate. And even though it's only 3 that have officially been announced, Milk Love did tease that like they might have something else coming and that there is other, which this was before JMMTV Part 2, so the other thing they were teasing could have been Emmy and Bonnie and Us.
Mm.
But I feel like Milk and Love have also teased that like this is not the last we'll be seeing of them
We'll
in
see of them.
projects either.
Yeah.
So I'm I'm
I would
I'm
also
excited.
like to see what View in June do.
Yeah.
What GMMTV do with View in June.
I
Oh
agree.
my god, sorry. And see Are we going to get a series from them? Are we going to get another series where they're a second couple, where they're a main? Are they going to be a pairing?
Yeah, them coming out of 23.5 as like one of the fan favorites hopefully bodes well for them getting to work more together. And I mean, GMMTV has been promoting them a lot together still as well, so I'm hopeful that we'll see them in another project, whether it's a second lead or their own project. I will take
maybe
any and all.
The day GMMTV had the line of girlies at the front of their showcase
and
photo.
when the men were the minority. I don't know if that'll ever
I just put them in the front of the photo.
That won't ever happen, but it's a dream.
We can dream.
At least 50-50. Like,
yeah, give us an even split.
I just put them in the front. Just at least one photo, one showcase where they are in the front, not in the back. They'll live in the front. That's all I want. Put the girlies in the front.
The girls in the front.
And I'll be happy.
Pretty dresses.
We're not asking for much. Yeah, I'm like, these men are always in just like suits, and the girls are out here in these gorgeous ass dresses. Like, let them be shown.
Yeah.
Put the men in dresses. Why haven't some of the men come in dresses?
That too.
Yes.
I would love that.
Yeah.
And on that note, perfect note to end it on, I think, honestly.
Yeah, obviously.
But yeah, that's all we have for our deep dive of 23.5. I think it's been really awesome to see GMMTV's first GL finally air after hoping for it for so long and waiting for 23.5 for almost 2 years. It was a long journey and we made it to the end, which sad that it's over, but I think we're hopeful for the future of GL at GMMTV. That just made me laugh. I think we're hopeful for the future of GL at GMMTV with both Pluto and Us already confirmed, and we're excited to see what they have coming in the future as well. So be sure to share your thoughts on 23.5 with us down in the comments on YouTube or over on our socials at Lovecast Podcast. You can find us on pretty much every platform there, or our Discord server, which is always linked in the description. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, leave us a rating and review there as well, because all of those things really help get the podcast pushed on their various platforms. And share the episode with your friends as well, all of your Milk Love and GL and 23.5 loving friends. We want to hear everyone's thoughts. So yeah, that's all we have for you this week, and we will see you guys in another episode very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The thing you put in when you're washing clothes to make them smell.
Fabric softener.
Fabric softener?
Fabric softener. Yeah, don't get me started on that. Like, I will.
Yeah, I don't use it.
I use vinegar.
If someone uses that, we can't be friends, okay?